Have you ever felt like the world right now is just so transactional? Like people have literally forgotten how to be human? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the hidden mechanics of stress. We're going to look at exactly why our daily environment feels so exhausting, and most importantly, how you can actually reclaim your human dignity in the middle of all this noise. Because let's face it, we live in a crazy, constantly demanding world, and it's taking a massive, often invisible toll on how we connect with each other. So we're going to unpack the real physical and psychological reasons behind why people act the way they do under pressure, and better yet, how you can build an unshakable foundation to protect your own peace of mind.
All right, let's jump right in with a universal annoyance I know we've all experienced. Getting a cold call from someone who sounds like a completely emotionless, script-reading robot. You know exactly the type. They call right during dinner to pitch you some extended car warranty. You pick up, and the voice on the other end barely even registers as human. They just plow right through this pre-written dialogue, totally ignoring anything you say or any objections you have. It's frustrating, it feels disrespectful, and our knee-jerk reaction is usually to get super annoyed and think, come on, why can't you just talk to me like a normal person?
But here's where it gets really interesting. This quote-unquote robotic behavior, it's not about them being incompetent or intentionally rude. It's actually a primal stress response. Think about it for a second. Calling up a total stranger to sell them something triggers this terrifying, deep-seated social anxiety in the human brain. And when someone is operating under that kind of overwhelming, chronic stress, their higher cognitive functions basically just shut down. The brain literally forces the body into automatic, thoughtless actions just to survive the uncomfortable moment. They're not trying to be rude to you. They're in full-on psychological survival mode, clinging to the absolutely only safe thing they have in front of them, which is the script. To really wrap our heads around this mechanism, think about how people act in a massive crowd during a sudden panic. Just like individuals in a panicked crowd completely lose their unique identity and run on pure instinct, a highly stressed caller defaults to mindlessly reading a script. Things like independent thought, empathy, really actively listening to you, those take a massive amount of mental energy. Energy that their fried nervous system just doesn't have right now. So the script becomes this necessary crutch. Functioning on absolute autopilot is literally the only way they can get through the interaction without completely breaking down.
And you know, this perfectly captures the real tragedy of the situation. The caller is in such a deep state of insecurity and stress that they totally erase their own identity. They strip away their own human value because in that split second of fear, they genuinely believe the printed words on their screen are somehow smarter, safer, and just more valuable than their own authentic voice. It's this profound loss of self-trust happening right there on the other end of the line, just disguised as terrible customer service.
Now, before we judge that caller too harshly, we kind of need to turn the mirror on ourselves. Because it's super easy to point fingers at the person reading the script, right? But we really have to ask how our own daily unmanaged stress is secretly running the show in our behaviors. We might not be making cold calls in a crowded cubicle, sure, but where in your life are you shutting down? Where are you going on autopilot and checking out of your human connections because the pressure is just way too high?
See, when we suppress tension instead of dealing with it head-on, it doesn't just magically disappear. Our energetic and emotional systems literally overflow, and that leads to these really surprising real-world symptoms that we almost always misdiagnose. Ever notice a sudden onset of stuttering during a tense meeting? Or maybe slipping into inappropriate nervous laughter when things get super serious? Maybe your focus just tanks and you forget simple things like why you even walked into a room. Or you suddenly become super clumsy, spilling your morning coffee, dropping your keys, bumping into door frames. These aren't just random quirks of a bad day, guys. They are blaring alarm bells from your nervous system.
So the crucial takeaway here is that when tension builds up inside without any intentional emotional release, it forcibly leaks out. It shows up as sheer clumsiness or a total loss of everyday awareness. You can try to push those emotions down, you can ignore the creepy anxiety and just white-knuckle your way through the week, but your physical body, it's going to override you eventually. It will expel that trapped stress through a physical accident or a sudden, embarrassing mental blank, simply because your internal system literally cannot hold the pressure anymore.
Understanding this leads to a massive paradigm shift in how we handle our daily lives and interpersonal conflicts. Think about it. When you react with sheer, unbridled anger to a robotic worker, you are uselessly draining your own vital energy into a corporate system that, frankly, does not care. The system isn't going to change just because you got mad at a customer service rep. By getting angry, the absolute only person you are punishing is yourself. You're actively handing over your own precious energy and peace of mind to a machine that is completely indifferent to your feelings.
So instead of getting angry, the ultimate solution is tapping into your self-worth. And look, we aren't talking about arrogance or an inflated ego here. True self-worth is a strategic, conscious refusal to lose your own humanity and dignity when you're faced with a toxic or stressful situation. It's about standing incredibly firm in your own value and saying, you know what? I refuse to let this poorly trained, highly stressed caller drag me down to a level of hostility. I value my own peace way too much to participate in this negativity.
Which brings us to this fundamental truth, and this really anchors everything we're explaining today. A stressed-out, script-reading caller cannot treat you like a human being, because in that moment, they have lost touch with their own human value. And on the flip side, if you immediately snap at them and treat them like a broken machine, well, that highlights a moment where you are losing touch with yours. Recognizing our shared, flawed humanity is absolutely foundational if we want to break these vicious cycles of stress and reactivity that are just plaguing the modern world.
And make no mistake, we are dealing with a society-wide crisis right now. The constant negative news cycles, complex global economic issues, the daily tragedies broadcast straight to the phones in our pockets, it completely depletes our internal resources. People everywhere are walking around so drained by the macro environment that they simply don't have the emotional bandwidth or the physical energy left to act with basic empathy in their micro interactions. We are living through a quiet, invisible epidemic of severe emotional exhaustion.
But hey, here is the incredible news. If you take away just one thing from this today, let it be this. You do not have to carry this heavy baggage forever. With the right active mindset and a few emotional tools, a highly stressful interaction, something that used to completely ruin your entire afternoon, can be actively processed and totally released in just 10 minutes. It does not have to become trapped trauma or a ruinous mood. You can literally reset your nervous system, let it go completely, and just move on with a productive day. So how do we do that? You build this incredible resilience by creating what we might call an empathy energy shield. First, actively ask questions. Even just silently asking yourself, hey, is this person okay right now? When you formulate questions, your brain automatically shifts from passive victimhood into active processing, which really helps you detach. Second, reframe the situation. Recognize that the quote-unquote bad behavior in front of you is almost always a symptom of someone else's deep exhaustion and fear. And third, make a conscious, deliberate choice to refuse to absorb their panic. Empathy isn't about taking on their pain, it's about understanding it while keeping your own boundaries completely rock solid. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one vital question to think about. The modern world is going to constantly throw stress and robotic, thoughtless interactions your way. That is pretty much an absolute guarantee. But the next time you face one of these highly frustrating moments, what are you going to choose? Are you going to surrender your peace and join the collective panic? Or will you fiercely protect your own self-worth and respond with the quiet, unshakable dignity of a person who is entirely in control of their own humanity? The choice is absolutely yours.